Hello and welcome. My name is Lisha Epperson, and I am the Pastoral Fellow at St. Peter's, Chelsea in New York City. Thank you for joining us for our Care Group series, where this time we'll be reading Howard Thurman's seminal work, Jesus and the Disinherited. In the centering portion of this 10-week series, we will nurture our capacity to pursue racial justice with contemplative practices. A little bit about Howard Washington Thurman. Thurman was born in 1899. He was one of the principal architects of the modern nonviolent civil rights movement and served as a key mentor to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Thurman was an American author, philosopher, theologian, educator, civil rights leader, and mystic. His sense of spiritual activism was a key component of the civil rights movement, and he is remembered today. His work is remembered today for its sustaining power. Thurman, however, was not always appreciated. His work wasn't on the front lines of the movement, and he was often criticized because his brand or his way of being called to activism isn't always publicized. It's the kind of thing that doesn't draw a crowd or makes the front, the headlines of a newspaper, right? Thurman would counter this critique with his belief that the first order of social change begins with the individual. So I'll say that one more time because that's a grounding theme for what we're doing here today, is that we're centering his belief that the first order of social change begins with the individual. So we'll get to know more about him in the next few weeks, but we'll stop here for now. Our centering work for this series is patterned after Thurman's desire to empower a sense of spiritual heft, right? As we practice an inner awareness and engagement that will fortify any work we do in community. In tonight's practice, we'll prepare the mind and heart and engage the body. I will share a poem by Howard Thurman that highlights some of the themes of our practice. We'll do a breath and body check-in and seal our practice with 3 minutes of silence. Before we begin, I'd like to remind you that this is a safe space where the practices we participate in together are done so in hopes of empowering us, sustaining us, growing us to do the work that we need to do as we consider the thought of racial reconciliation. It's something that's going to grow us as we press forward in the weeks ahead. So this is a space of light and newness, of spirit-infused beginnings. We are all beginners. We begin this work together. I'd like to encourage you that if you are a new practitioner of these kind of grounding and this kind of inner work, an inner journey, an inward journey, as Howard Thurman calls it, I'd let you know ahead of time that it can be challenging to kind of quiet the mind, and you will experience what some call monkey mind, where your thoughts are kind of jumping all over the place as you're trying to engage, and that sometimes that this work can feel a little scary to kind of go in, because sometimes we live really on the surface. It's kind of like a defense mechanism of sorts, where we kind of leave everything on the outward and are afraid to go in. And so I'd encourage you to take the chance and to trust God and this community and yourself to dig a little deeper, to take the inward journey, to pursue this path of work that really will build that sense of heft, that and a rigorous sense of heft, spiritual heft that we need. So I will read a poem of Howard Thurman's. It's called How Good It Is to Center Down, and that is the theme of tonight's practice. How good it is to center down, to sit quietly and see oneself pass by. The streets of our minds seethe with endless traffic. Our spirits resound with clashings, with noisy silences, while something deep within hungers and thirsts for the still moment and the resting lull. With full intensity we seek, ere the quiet passes, a fresh sense of order in our living, a direction, a strong, sure purpose that will structure our confusion and bring meaning in our chaos. We look at ourselves in this waiting moment, the kinds of people we are. The questions persist. What are we doing with our lives? What are the motives that order our days? What is the end of our doings? Where are we trying to go? Where do we put the emphasis, and where are our values focused? For what end do we make sacrifices? Where is my treasure, and what do I love most in life? What do I hate most in life, and to what am I true? Over and over the questions beat in upon the waiting moment. As we listen, floating up through all the jangling echoes of our turbulence, there is a sound of another kind. A deeper note, which only the stillness of the heart makes clear. It moves directly to the core of our being. Our questions are answered. Our spirits refreshed, and we move back into the traffic of our daily round with the peace of the eternal in our step. How good it is to center down. Before we begin our time together, I'll remind you again to acknowledge the thoughts that come up and let them go. They will come up and they will try to distract you, but we're going to practice letting them go. I'd also offer the option of turning off your camera if you think that that would be helpful to you to kind of engage. Some people really need that auditory stimulation, and if that would be helpful to you, this practice is designed in such a way that if you just listen, you absolutely can follow along and practice with us. And so we'll begin. I'll ask you to join me. So find a comfortable position, right? You might be seated on your sofa or a chair. You might be seated cross-legged on the floor. However you find yourself, you might even choose standing tonight. That could work as well. But however you find yourself, I'd ask you to get comfortable. And we will begin with the breath. Always begin with the breath. So let's take maybe 30 seconds here to tune into the rhythm of the breath. You may notice that I have already lowered my eyes. You may close your eyes if that feels good, and just tune into the sound of my voice, or find a soft gaze, right? A focal point that you can kind of center on, and just soft eyes, relaxed eyes. Connect with the flow of your breath. On your own time, inhale and exhale. Center down. Center down. Find this quiet space in you. And with your mind's eye, see yourself in this moment. And breathe. Quiet the noise. Push past any distractions or negative thoughts. As the distractions come up, as they arise, release them. Find your pause. Center down. Thurman teaches this sense of stillness, this inward looking, as a centering down. Here we find inner peace. We find purpose and direction. We find strength. Center down. Breathe. And as you continue working toward that connection, I'd invite you to make the commitment to lean into it. Enter in and stay a while. Remind yourself that in this space you are safe, you are loved, you are the beloved of God. You are with your sisters and brothers in community. Feel a connection to your parents and your all those who have come before you, your friends and relatives, your chosen family, your Creator. This is a safe space. The Spirit of God is within and with us. We are co-laborers in the work of love, and we are here to lift each other up. We do not do this work alone. So just breathe. Find the resting lull. And enjoy it. I'd invite you to join me in a few moments of embodied practice. So take a moment to spread your feet, maybe hip width apart if you are seated. And maybe wiggle your toes. If you are seated, I'd invite you to stretch one leg in front of you and maybe rotate your ankle one way and then the other. And you can return that foot to the floor, bring it back, and then extend the other leg. And just rotate that ankle one way and then the other. Just find a little movement there, no pressure, real easy, and then return it. Return your feet to the floor and take a moment to ground yourself. In this moment, in this space, with these people, you are supported. Lengthen your spine. As able, maybe grow just a half an inch taller. Ease your shoulders down. And for a moment, be intentional about drawing your shoulders to your ears. And just hold it there for a minute. Just hold that tension for a second. And then let the shoulders float back down, nice and easy. Make sure there's space between your shoulders and your ears. Feel that length. Extend your neck. If you haven't already, place your hands comfortably on the tops of your thighs. And imagine yourself powerfully seated with the crown of your head parallel to the ceiling, reaching towards the sky. Just breathe here for a moment. Powerfully seated. And if it feels right to you, close your eyes. If it feels right to you, find a soft gaze, pleasant expression, soft and easy. And breathe. And rest. Continue this feeling of quiet in the mind and body. As you're able, I invite you to lift your arms out wide. I don't think you can see my hands on the screen, but my arms are extended fully to the sides, reaching from one side of the room to the other. Palms are facing the screen that you're looking at, or the screen that you're facing if your camera is off. Yes. Spread your fingers. Yearn your shoulders down. This is still a powerful seated stance, right? And now take your arms, just bring them towards you as you bring all the love that's in this room and in the space that you're in, and bring your arms across your chest into a little hug, right? A hug. And you're still in this powerfully seated stance or position. Shoulders are down, you're relaxed. Continue to breathe. Let the thoughts go. Let them come and go as they please. You're here to fortify yourself, to be and commune with your God, to allow God to do the work in you that needs to be done. The inner work, you're taking the inward journey. And as you are seated here, I'll invite you to lean your chin, just lower your chin down to your chest. Center down. And so here you might allow your spine to curl a little, right? We're just going in. Just continue to breathe. We'll seal our practice with 3 minutes of silence. So the next thing you hear will be a chime or gong sound, and that will signal our 3 minutes of silence. After that, you'll hear the chime again, and we'll return. Center down. I'd invite you to slowly open your eyes, release your spine. If you've curled over for a while, kind of come back to a seated and straight posture. Take a deep breath. Release your embrace. Maybe take a moment to circle the shoulders back one time. And reverse that, bring them forward one time. And then just find that easy, seated, powerful stance again. You've done the work, my friends. I hope it was nourishing for you. Remember, Howard Thurman says that this sustaining work, as we lean into the deep, deep work of racial reconciliation, it begins with the individual. And we have done that here. We have begun our practice. I'm so grateful for this time that you've committed, and thank you for participating with us. I'll see you next week.